So today's little project is to build a garden gate that from this side acts, works and looks like a gate. And from this side just looks like a normal fence, meaning the gate is secret. Shh. So this is how I've got myself into this position. The project is to build a fence from this fixed point to this fixed point, which is around about 35 foot in length. But each of my panels are 8 foot wide, which adds up to 1, 2, 3, 4 and a bit. But the original plan was, rather than having 1, 2, 3, 4 and a little bit left over, was to space the posts evenly, meaning the whole thing would be symmetrical. And to do that means the first post goes in here, which is exactly where I hit a great big lump of concrete. So I decided to go to plan B, which is to move the first post to 8 foot away from the fixed position, then another 8 foot, another 8 foot, another 8 foot, leaving something about the size of a door, or a gate should I say, which is completely unplanned, but I've ended up with something around about 3 foot wide, which suits putting a gate in, because it may be handy for me to get outside of my property to the other side of the fence in the future, rather than going all the way around the houses. But I don't really want anyone to see that there is a gate here, so I want it to look exactly the same as the rest of the fence, so only I can open it, so no one can think, so they can just walk into my garden. So this is what I need to do in summary. Firstly, I've got some existing block work on the left that needs to be patched up. And then onto the metal fence posts, I need to fix some timbers to act as a frame for the gate. I'll then bring in my gate structure, which I'm going to build with half-lap joints, and it's hung on the left-hand side. So the bracing will be like this. I can then fix a 6-inch timber gravel board to the bottom and essentially clad it in the same way as the fence using feather edge boards. And then I can add a couple of gate bolts top and bottom to secure it. Before I can even think about making a gate for this gap, I do have to make sure that these posts on either side are not only in the perfect position, but they're also permanently fixed. Now this one on the right here is permanently fixed because it's concreted into the ground and it's plumb and it's in line, so that's fine. This one on the left, although it's in the perfect position, it's just held on and it's hanging there sort of precarious. Let me show you why. So the outside line of this fence, which I've been building, ends up lining up with the outside line of this wall, and this wall goes on down here for about another 20-25 meters, I would guess. So I've had to put this right on the edge of this concrete wall. So when I was trying to fix it, like in a position here, it sort of naturally just blew out the concrete behind it and I couldn't get a fix in. The same thing has happened right down the bottom here. You can see this is just blown out. So when I was fixing it, I just managed to get one good fixing in, and that's all that's holding it at the moment. So although it's in the perfect line, it's also in the perfect level. So this is exactly the right level, but if I knock that, it's going to move. So normally what I would do is take this down, sort out this problem with this block work, build this back up, and then refix this post. However, because the post is exactly in the right position at the moment, what I'm thinking is if I can get another couple of fixings in here and get it fixed properly before I do this block work, then it means that I don't have to worry about position wise again. So what I'm going to do is, rather than to use these holes, which are just sort of 20 mil from the edge of this concrete, so they're just going to keep exploding on me, I'm going to drill some more holes right to the left hand side, which should aim near enough at the middle of these sort of 90 mil concrete blocks. So I should be able to get a fixing in there and then get some threaded bar and threaded rod in there and see if I can fix this with resin. As soon as I start drilling, I sort of realise that as I punch through, there's a really good chance that the drill bit is going to hit the concrete block behind and I'll lose the sharp point on it. Which is exactly what happened. That'll be it. So definitely drilling these holes more into the centre of the block at a slight angle into the block meant I didn't blow out the sides. And these masonry holes are 10 millimeters in diameter. So I've just cut some 6 millimeter threaded bar, and I'm going to use these with a nut and a washer as really a bolt. So I need to glue that in, and then once it's gone off, tighten it up. And to glue it in, I'm going to use this resin system. It's called Easy Fix. Now, I don't think it really matters what type of resin you use, so this is about the cheapest stuff you can get from Screwfix. It's a two-part system. It goes down this twirly nozzle, mixes along the way, and once it's gone hard, it is blimmin' hard. Now, that you can rely on. However, if the hole is full of dust, that means that it could actually debond and slip out. So before we put any of this in, we have to get the dust out the hole. And for that, you can buy a pump that looks a little bit like a bicycle pump, where you put the tube down the end of the hole, pump it, then all the dust comes out. But I haven't got one of those. The nearest thing I've got is my Makita tyre inflator, and I've got a tube just at the right size to put the end in, and then see if I can blow all the dust out. This actually works amazingly well, although it's a very expensive way to clear out these holes if you don't already own a cordless tyre inflator. Two-part polythene resin cures into an incredibly hard material, so I think these fixings to the blockwork will end up more than adequate. So I've left the nuts loose, and although I've got a little bit of play between the threaded bar and the holes, I just want to make sure it's as accurate as possible, which it is. So I'm going to leave that a couple of hours. That resin is going to go absolutely rock hard, which means I can then come back, tighten the nuts up, which means that is never going to go anywhere. While I let the resin get some strength, I turn my attention to making the gate frame. I've decided to use treated 3x2 timber, as this gate isn't going to get much use. I would normally use 4x2. And I'm going to use half-lap joints to construct this. If you want more detail on how to construct a gate using half-lap joints, take a look at this video on the screen, which I'll also put a link in the description below, which goes into far more detail. I line up both side timbers and use an offcut to set out where I have to make the half laps. To do this, you really need a miter saw with a depth stop, which if you haven't got, I would highly recommend buying one. It would be an excellent investment. When you're making a door or gate like this, it's obviously important to check for square by measuring the diagonals, but also to make sure that it's coplanar. That means it's not twisted at all while you're gluing it up. So I also check that the supports it's sitting on are both level. Here I'm using PU or polyurethane expanding glue, which once it comes out the bottle reacts with moisture and expands, filling all the little gaps in the half-lap joint. However, you do need to make sure that each joint is also clamped, as it can easily force joints apart as it expands. Although it doesn't quite expand as quick as this is actually speeded up. While the gate cures, I turn my attention to sorting out the blockwork. This wall is donkey's years old, and the dense concrete blocks used are over 225 millimeters in height. That's over 9 inches and only 90 millimeters wide, so completely unstandard compared to modern blocks. So I find a couple of old blocks that are lying about my property, which we'll have to do. I know the bedding is going to be excessive, but I'm not going to get too upset, as this is really just a patch-up job. While I'm mixing the mortar, I just make sure that I'm not using too much water, as I need it to support these blocks And if I put in too much water and the mix is too sloppy, it's just not going to support them. The good thing about PU glue over standard wood glue is that it's easier and cleaner to remove any squeeze out, but you just have to make sure it's all gone off before you start. I cut a couple of notches on either side to take a mid rail . And then I'm glad that I recently bought a pair of Jorgensen clamps which actually connect together, which I think is a really clever idea. So I managed to span the gate width. The last but most important thing I need to fix are these braces, which I make sure are cut so they're nice and tight, and I glue in place, but also use a long screw on each connection just to make sure they don't become loose over time. Just before I get on and hang this gate, I just want to mention a couple of things to all you new subscribers to the channel. And that is, firstly, did you know I've actually got a second YouTube channel that you may want to have a look at. It's called Tools and Effect, where I test out and preview all types of tools, both good and bad, and sometimes even the places that you can buy them from. The link to the channel is in the description below, so please check it out after this video. Secondly, did you know I also have a Patreon group who, at this very point in every video I make, get an extra 5 to 10 minutes of behind the scenes footage, ad-free, with additional tips about the project I'm working on, and get to hear me waffle on about all kinds of things that unfortunately the public, I mean you, don't get to see because you're not a patron. If you do want to sign up, it's only £3 a month or $4, and it's really easy to both sign up and to leave if you don't think it's for you. The link to that is once again in the description below. Anyway, enough of that. I think I need to get on and finish this gate. After all the preparation and making the gate in the workshop, it's nice to finally get it fixed in place. All the hardware I'm using here, like the bolts and the hinges, I bought from Amazon. I'll put links to all of them in the description below, or you can find them in my Amazon storefront. So there it is, 100% finished, with just a little bit of nice carpentry and a lock top and bottom, and some pretty traditional garden gate hinges. So I think I've achieved my aim. On the inside, it's clear that this is a gate. And on the outside, it all just looks like fence. Even close up, it's really difficult to work out which one is fence and which one is gate. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you next time.